What's up, everybody? Baby Huey here for 1077 The Bone. I'm so excited that AEW is coming back to the Bay Area. AEW Collision will be at the Oakland Arena in Oakland on Saturday, March 1st. Tickets are on sale now over at Ticketmaster.com. And joining me to talk all about it is AEW wrestler Adam Cole, baby. How's it going?
That's right. I'm doing great, man. Good to talk to you again. How you been?
I'm doing awesome. Yeah, so you and I were just talking a little bit off the air. So we did an interview together over 5 years ago. It was a phone interview. And like, I will admit, ever since then, I was like, Adam Cole, you're one of my favorites. And I was like, I wanted to interview you since then. And keep in mind, so this is 2019, before COVID happened. I feel like, phone interviews were more common back then, but now we're in a world for the last 5 years where video interviews are more the norm. And I was like, man, I had a really great interview with you back then, but I wish that was on video interview, but it was not like the norm yet of all these video interview stuff. So, but thank you for making the time this morning. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you for having me. This is great.
So let's talk about, AEW coming back to the Bay Area. I'm just curious though, from your perspective, have you wrestled a lot in the Bay Area over the years?
A handful of times, but I wouldn't say a ton or anything like that. But again, the fans, I really do mean this. The fans on the West Coast in general are just excellent. So I'm sure they'll be ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for you, your time in PWG and just, in Southern California, but NorCal, we have a very rich wrestling scene up here as well. A lot of great talent has come out from the Bay Area, NorCal, and so really excited for Collision to come back to the Bay Area. So for you though, I'm excited to see you in person again, wrestle. Let's be real, the last couple of years have been a little tough for you personally. I mean, between the concussion almost 2 years ago now, and then the ankle injury in 2023. I've seen you answer this question quite a bit with other interviews, but how you feeling right now? You've been back wrestling now for a few months. How's your body feeling? How you doing post-injury?
Sure. So I really do mean this, and I hope this doesn't come across as cliche and something that everyone says, but I genuinely mean this. This is the best I have felt physically in years, like even before the injuries actually happened. So again, like you had said, it was a challenging couple of years between the concussion injuries and then being back for 6 months and feeling like, all right, we're ready to rock and roll. And then this freak accident happened with my ankle. So it was really tough, both physically and mentally. But now, again, mentally, to be back in a place where I'm getting to do what I love. Again, I eat, sleep, and breathe pro wrestling. It's all I've ever wanted to do. So to be able to do it once again, obviously has me in a great headspace, but also physically, my training and how I felt and the precautions that I've taken, I just feel really, really good, man. And again, 2025 for me is a year of gratitude. I am so thankful to be able to wrestle again.
Yeah. So let's talk about the ankle injury. So for anyone new to our station's audience, the Bonehead family, we call them, our listeners who might not know how severe that ankle injury was, I've heard stories of like the surgery process, but can you explain what you went through for that?
No, of course. So how it actually happened, again, it was just a complete freak accident. The surgeon who did my ankle said that ankles and shoulders are the two things where it can make no sense. Sometimes it just happens. But again, in New York at Arthur Ashe Stadium, I'm running down and I just jumped down a little 4, maybe 5 foot platform, not big at all, but I landed on a camera cable. My ankle just exploded. I knew immediately something was wrong. I felt my ankle swelling up against my shoe. I knew it was really bad. So initially I go in to get it looked at. I'm already very upset. And they originally said the recovery should be about 6 months. And I thought, okay, great. I'm going to go in for like an hour and a half surgery. It's going to be 2 or 3 screws and I'll be good to go. Well, if 4 hours later, I get out of surgery and the first thing I hear is we need to do another surgery next week. Your ankle's a lot worse than we thought. So 7 days later, I had to go back in to get another surgery. So the total is like 6 screws, a plate. And then the kicker is I have a cadaver bone in my ankle. So they went to save a piece of bone, probably about this size for those watching on video, was just floating around in my ankle. And they went to save it. But when they did, the bone just disintegrated. So someone else was kind enough to donate a cadaver bone. So I have someone else's bone in my ankle. But it was a wild injury, gnarly injury.
Do you know where that bone was donated from? Who it came from?
I do. I got to write to the family to thank them. So
very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool. Wow. So with that being said, though, as you're planning your return at the end of last year, making that comeback, did you mentally is like, okay, do I need to change my wrestling style to maybe prevent further injuries? What your in-ring performance had you have to change any of that?
Sure. I was actually very, very worried about that. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Okay.
Because again, it's so fascinating. Even with my head injury, which was very concerning, obviously,
Yeah.
but I didn't feel like my body really changed at all. Your ankle, it's so incredibly important. So like I kind of had
Hmm.
to learn how to re-walk and like put weight on it properly, and my
Yeah.
mobility changed. So I remember thinking, oh no, this is going to really affect me in the ring, not only physically based on what I can and can't do, but
Yeah.
mentally, I'm going to be thinking about it all the time. And I will say, after a few matches of having my ankle taped up real good, obviously
Yeah.
wearing my tight wrestling boots, man,
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't changed anything. I feel great. I feel like I wrestle the exact same way that I want to wrestle. And honest to God, I'm not even thinking about it when I'm in there. So that's a win for me.
So when you're making your comeback or playing the comeback, I'm really curious, and I'm trying to think how to phrase this properly. Is the relationship with Tony Khan as
Yeah.
far as planning your return, and once you're back, um, have you had conversations with him about your future in AEW, like what he expects from you moving forward? And I thought of this in relation to other sports out there in sports teams when a player goes down with an injury,
Yeah.
sometimes back-to-back injuries. Here in the Bay
Mhm.
Area, we have the Golden State Warriors. Klay Thompson, he had back-to-back injuries a few years ago, so we as fans saw how that played out. Um, for in the organization, might be a little hesitant to go all in on that player again, coming
Mhm.
back from the injury. So, with that being said, in your situation, what is Tony Khan's outlook on what you can bring to AEW moving forward?
Yeah, yeah. So Tony has been so incredibly supportive in so many different ways with,
Okay.
with both of my injuries.
Okay.
Completely willing to do whatever he can to help. I mean, when you talk about someone who's a great boss who is there for you,
Yeah.
Tony Khan is that person. But at the
Hmm.
same time, he knows how badly and what I want to bring to the table, and I know he's
Okay.
willing to give me that. For example, he's super excited, and I am incredibly excited about the idea of working alongside Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly again.
Yeah.
Forming this trio with these
Yeah.
two guys, two of my best friends.
Hmm.
And Tony knows what my goals are in AEW. Tony knows, like I said, what I want to bring to the table. And again, I'm just going to work for it. I'm going to prove to Tony and prove to AEW that I deserve to be in that spot.
Gotcha. Well, so let's talk about that. So right now, since the new year, we've seen the reformation of the Undisputed Kingdom. You, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, you guys have had trios matches on Collision the last few weeks. Um, Even at one point, we saw you stare down Daniel Garcia a couple weeks ago, looking at the TNT title. But also on Dynamite last week, we saw you had the match against the Death Riders for the Trios Championship. Unfortunately, we saw what happened. Those a-holes cheated to get the
Of
win.
course, of
But
course they did.
so what's I guess next for you? Is the focus going to be on the trios division with Undisputed Kingdom, or are you still going to try to go for some singles gold?
I think I would like to do both. I
Okay.
really mean that because I was looking through and thinking about, I'm incredibly proud of the things that I've accomplished within AEW.
Yeah.
I've got the challenge for the world championship in main event shows, that maybe the
Hmm.
biggest show we've ever done with the first All In Wembley Stadium,
Yeah.
it being the first ever Owen Hart Cup winner. Like I'm very proud
Yeah.
of my accomplishments. But in 2025, I do want to get my hands on some championship gold, and that both includes singles championships and the trios championships. So
Okay.
I do feel like guys like me, Roddy, and Kyle O'Reilly are able to focus on both things, and that 100% is my intention.
Yeah, listen, I've been really when you have not been injured, I've been loving everything you've been doing in
Yeah.
AEW. Even this morning, I was just rewatching your debut in AEW at
Oh,
AEW All Out 2021. Just the finale there. What an ending as far as you coming out, and then a few minutes later, Bryan Danielson comes out. Like for anyone who doesn't know, when you're trying to keep a secret, make a big surprise, a reveal, it's very hush hush. Just from your perspective that day, like what was going through your mind going through that day? Like, here I am. I'm going to debut for a new company. I've been at this other place for over
yeah,
4 years. Like, what was going
right.
through your mind?
It was such a wild day because it all happened so fast, like
Yeah.
so fast. And then hearing that it was going to be me and Brian debuting at the same time,
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, the butterflies and the goosebumps I had going into that was so exciting. But I remember being really worried that it was going to get out. Because again,
Okay.
information is so available now that I'm like, someone's going to say something or
Yeah.
someone's going to see me. But fortunately, it was a complete surprise. I know. I remember I came in the night before to Milwaukee and stayed
Okay.
in a hotel very far away, and then I drove in as the show was going on and was hidden, kind of all show in a trailer along with Bryan.
Okay.
And it was such a cool feeling to be taken out right before the debut and to see a bunch of the talent looking, going, "Wait, what are you doing here?" And I'm like saying my hellos as I'm getting ready to go out. But man, the fans were just unbelievable. That was one of the coolest moments of my career.
Absolutely. So, like, if you care to share, what was that conversation with Bryan as you two are both waiting, hiding out before you guys each come to the ring? Like, I'm thinking like Chris Farley, Paul McCartney on Saturday Night Live, where you're
Yeah.
like, remember you and I wrestled on SmackDown? That was awesome.
Right. No, we were really excited. We knew, we're like, man,
Okay.
tonight is going to be really, really special. It was a really exciting step for the both of us. I know Bryan was so ready to go. I was so ready to go. And I just remember telling him, I'm so glad I got to share that moment with him, because I think
Yeah.
the world of Bryan,
Yeah.
obviously, like everybody else does. But yeah, we were both really pumped, really, really pumped up.
Well, let's talking about Bryan Danielson. As we saw end of last year, he retired from full time in ring competition. As we've seen, he's still doing press for All In next year, or excuse me, this year, later on
Yeah.
this year in Texas. He's still around in some capacity. But, what were your thoughts on him retiring from full time and just, what he means for the wrestling industry?
Yeah, I in every sense of the word, want Bryan to do what's best for Bryan,
Mhm.
because Bryan has always done what's best for the company and what's best for everybody else. Bryan is one of the most unselfish, just wonderful and talented wrestlers I have ever met. He's an amazing, amazing human being. It breaks
Mhm.
my heart to know that I'm not going to be able to see Bryan wrestle full time, because again, he is one of the absolute best to ever do this. So
Yeah.
of course that's sad. But again, when it comes to Bryan's health, and when it comes to Bryan being the best version of him, that's what I want for him. He gave his entire life to professional wrestling, and he's going to be missed. But that respect and that love will never go away. I think the world of Bryan Danielson.
Absolutely. Can't agree enough with that. So, no, thank you for sharing about that.
Of course.
Uh, as we all know, hey, when you come to the ring, Adam Cole, baby, the boom. The Costco guys have been getting involved with
Yes.
AEW the last few months. Finally, was it like 3 weeks ago? You guys had a
Yep.
little backstage interaction. You guys kind of doing your own booms. So like, I was like, man, I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. Like,
Right.
why did it take a couple months?
Oh, just building the anticipation, baby, for
I,
that huge, that mega boom, if you will. Yeah.
absolutely. But what's it like having those guys in with AEW and also the Rizzler? Shout out the Rizzler.
Yes. No,
So
it's awesome to have them. Again, they are they're a really, really great family. They really,
yeah,
really are a good crew of people who clearly have a ton of respect for AEW. And again, they're so incredibly well known and so fun. They're fun
yeah.
to work with. They're fun to interact with. I think it's been a huge positive for AEW to have them around.
Yeah, so I do want to give a shout out to my friends Tim and Nick over at Pro Wrestling Unlimited. They gave me a couple questions here, video game related questions.
Oh,
I'm not a video game expert. I'm
uh,
sorry,
oh,
but
hey, no worries.
one question was, if you can have any video game character as your tag team partner, who would it be?
Oh, my answer. There's a lot of good options here.
Yeah,
You could say Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII. You could say Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption 2, who's been through a
yeah.
lot. There are multiple different people you could name, but
Hmm.
my number one, without question, the Master Chief from Halo. I mean, if I
Yeah.
had the Master Chief as a tag team partner, I think I'd go undefeated the rest of my career. He's the Master Chief, for God's sakes. So that's my pick.
Okay, and then let's see. Another question they have. Let's see. If you can have a match on any video game stage or level, which would it be?
Oh my God, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Um, a match on any video game stage or level. Oh, okay. So I would have a match in the arena where you fight the Elden Beast at the end of Elden Ring. It's this
Okay.
super, super cool arena with like all this cool lighting. Almost looks like space, like another dimension or another reality. I would want to have a match where you fight the Elden Beast in Elden Ring. So the final stage of Elden Ring. That's where I'd want to do it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I have to look up both of these.
Oh,
And
you'll love it.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Listen, Adam, like I said, I've been a longtime fan of yours, and like I'm really excited for what you can do this year in 2025. Like I said, it kind of feels like it's a little bit of a reset right now
Yes.
of
Yes.
what you can do in AEW. I'm excited. I'm rooting for you all the way. I do also want to ask, like, I'm trying to, my friends and I, we talk back about wrestling over the years. Like, wrestling right now is extremely hot. Let's be
Oh,
real.
yeah.
Like, it's amazing. Like, 10 years ago, people would make fun of me for being a wrestling fan, but now everyone's like, oh, so and so is back, or so and so is doing this or that, and all these events going on. And I'm like, yeah, okay, now you guys think it's all cool now. So, like, your thoughts on just this wrestling boom, no pun intended, that we're in right now?
No, I love it. I'm so glad you brought that up because in my, in April, it'll be 17 years for me
Okay.
with how long I've been wrestling.
Yeah.
This era right now that we're in is the best time to be a wrestler and the best time to be a wrestling fan. Like this boom that is going on is so cool and so exciting that there's this bigger appreciation from not just wrestling fans, but the general public on what pro wrestling is and what it brings to the table and how there's no other entertainment or sport quite like it. And it's a great time to be a wrestler, which is really, really awesome. So it's been so cool to kind of see how well, not just AEW, but the sport of professional wrestling has been doing in 2025. Like you can find great pro wrestling everywhere in the world. And I love that. I love that for pro wrestling.
And actually, so with that being said, though, like a period that I love dearly was just not too long ago, 2017 to 2019. What you were doing in the pro wrestling landscape at that time was amazing. And I was very lucky to witness some of your matches in person, like in New Orleans 2018, New York, Brooklyn 2019. You did so many great things. So just your thoughts on what you and UE did during that time period, like just what you guys accomplished during that window of time.
Oh yeah. Again, that was an incredible period in my career. Again, it was really, really cool to kind of see. I remember going to these events and just how rowdy the fans were at every single one of these shows. It felt like you were in the middle of something special, and it was a very, very special time. So, and then on top of that, getting the chance to work with guys who were my legitimate best friends, like Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly, I talk to every single day, whether or not we have anything work related or not. I talk to these guys all the time. So to get to share those moments with them, because the only thing cooler than doing really fun stuff is getting to do really cool stuff with people that you love and care about. So it was awesome. I look back on it very fondly, and I'm glad that I get to work with them again.
How are things with Bobby Fish? Just like, I know he's doing his own thing, but like,
yep.
And you stay in touch with him, and
I talked to Bobby as well. Bobby's doing real well.
Awesome. So what you just said, though, as far as that time period, as far as like really special event, and those takeover weekends, I'll just say was truly incredible because it was like a packed weekend. You guys were on Saturdays, Sundays was doing other events as well. The vibe, like I really could wish I could bottle up that energy again. Like your run there on those takeovers, arguably were like the best weekends for wrestling during that time period. Did you guys feel like I'm trying to think how I want to phrase this, like going into a weekend, you get takeover and whatever event on Sunday going on, where you guys feel like let's set the table, like a high bar, and like the people that have to wrestle on Sunday, let's see if they can follow that. Like, was that kind of like your mentality? Like, let's just go out there and just prove that we're the best that weekend?
Sure. So for me, I guess when you look at it objectively from an outside lens, I think absolutely that was the mentality. But generally speaking, for example, for me, and I know a lot of other people felt this way, is we were just so focused on what we had to do. Like I know when I was going out there, I wasn't thinking about the show tomorrow or the show last week or the other match on the card. I was thinking about my match and what I had to do to make it the absolute best it possibly could be. And I know everyone else thought that way as well. So I think that's part of why the events felt, extra special as well. So, but we definitely had that vision and that goal of like, we have to knock this out of the park. We have to. So
yeah, you're right. And you know, I give AEW credit, like when it's a pay-per-view weekend for them, it's really exciting. Got that buzz going. I do want to shout out that AEW Revolution will be happening down in LA at the Crypto Arena Sunday, March 9th, live on pay-per-view. AllEliteWrestling.com for info on that. But one other question I do want to ask you, and you know, it's from the past though.
sure.
I always wanted to ask, it was just the Karrion Kross promo. I loved it. It's legendary. Going into that, were you given the okay to say what you said during that promo about ringing the bell, and that's what makes you special in the ring? Or was that a surprise for everyone? And like, did you how to go backstage?
Well, first of all, I love Karrion Kross. Absolutely love him. He was a blast to work with. I think the world of him. But yes, we knew exactly what the promo was. We knew exactly what we were going to say. We were both in agreement on it. So it's funny that that's kind of taken on a life of its own, because I seriously made it. I think the world of him, and that was done on purpose. That was done on purpose. So, but yeah, he's the man. He's the man.
That's really cool. And you know, I also want to ask about MJF. You guys had this great rivalry or storyline, I should say, in 2023. We know what happened there. Of course, you know, during your time together as a tag team, you had these really cool, I enjoy these video segments of you guys out and about, being friends, doing your thing, hanging out together. Listen, I know AEW is known for having the best wrestling in the world. That stuff, some people were critical. It's just sports entertainment and all this stuff. For me, I enjoyed it. I love it because I grew up watching stuff like that in my wrestling shows. Some people were like, less of that, more just the in-ring work. So, but I enjoy it because it's part of like storyline building and gets me more invested in the characters. And when things go sour and it leads to a match, I'm more invested. That's just me personally speaking. So just kind of your thoughts on you and MJF, your storyline, how it was, I guess, displayed on TV.
Yeah, sure. And going off of what you were saying too, again, that's a thing that I love so much about AEW is I feel like you get a combination of everything that people could possibly love about pro wrestling. You get comedy, you get super serious blood feud wrestling, you get the most wild high flyers, you get the most incredible talkers, hardcore wrestling. You really do get a little bit of everything that pro wrestling has to offer. And that's what I love about it. And again, in turn, when me and MJF were doing that thing, it was to make it feel different from the rest of the show. And like you said, I'm sure some people didn't enjoy it, but for the most part, the live audience had an absolute blast with it. So I'm so glad they enjoyed it. And I really do think that was a big reason that we were able to go as long as we did and have that match at Wembley, is because of the backstage stuff that we did as well. So that just added so much more depth, like you had mentioned, to the Adam Cole MJF story.
Absolutely. I mean, I love seeing a kangaroo kick in a match as well later on. All that stuff. One other thing I do want to ask, Malakai Black, I know it's reports no longer with the company right now. You guys do have a long history together, working together, different promotions. A few months ago, you guys did have a match and you guys really embraced at the end of the match. A lot of people in that time were kind of speculating like, whoa, what's going on here? Like his status with the company, the way that ended, like, was it somewhat of a way of him saying goodbye in that moment a few months ago? For you, just can you kind of explain what was that moment about between you and Malakai? And did you know what was going on? Or
No,
Okay.
I really didn't. So again, I do have a history of working with Malakai, just an unbelievable opponent, an unbelievable guy to step in there with, and we've shared a lot of really, really cool moments together. So for me, all it was this personal moment between two guys who have a lot of love and respect for each other. I don't know anything about, or didn't know anything about what his plans were and things like that. For me, it was just a cool moment with a friend. After getting to work together after a long time.
That's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
Adam, I do have another kind of like a last question. So for me, you know, here I work at the Rock Station 107.7 The Bone here in San Francisco in the Bay Area. And my coworker and I, when we interview bands, she likes to ask, my coworker Chasta, she likes to ask the Almost Famous question. Do you remember the movie Almost Famous from like 25 years ago?
Yes.
With the kid goes on tour with the band. It's like, I think it's in the it takes place in the 60s. Anyway, doesn't matter the premise there. But at the end of the movie, the Almost Famous question is, what do you love about music? And so we asked that to all the rock stars that we interview and stuff. I was like thinking, you know what? I'm going to spin that around and do a wrestling version. So Adam Cole, what do you love about pro wrestling?
I love how pro wrestling makes me feel. From a very young age, I've always been fascinated with stories and how they bring out our emotion in so many different ways. I always found it fascinating that when watching a movie, I could be laughing and crying within the span of 2 minutes. And I found that so interesting. And pro wrestling, I feel, is the best live entertainment version of storytelling. There really is nothing like it. When you want to see incredible athleticism, you have it. When you want to see someone who's really funny, you have that. When you want to see wild violence, you have that. Like pro wrestling encapsulates everything that I love about what entertainment really is. And at the end of the day, the first time I ever got goosebumps was watching pro wrestling because it moved me. It made me feel something. I love the way pro wrestling makes me feel. I love that there's an unlimited amount of stories that we can tell. I love that pro wrestling at the end of the day is this incredible mixture of all these different stories of good versus evil. Pro wrestling is the most fascinating entertainment form there is. And I am so thankful I'm a part of it.
Thank you for saying that. Yes, I agree 100%. And just love everything you do in the pro wrestling world out there. So listen, I encourage everyone, get your tickets for AEW Collision. It's going to be at the Oakland Arena Saturday, March 1st. You can get tickets over at AEWTix.com or Ticketmaster.com. We'll have a link on our website. You can also go to theoaklandarena.com, AllEWrestling.com. And of course, check out AEW Dynamite every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on TBS. Or hey, you can watch it East Coast time here for us here on the West Coast, 5 o'clock on Max, streaming live on Max. And same for AEW Collision. That's every Saturday at 8 p.m. on TNT, or you can watch it live on Max as well at 5 o'clock. And as I mentioned earlier, AEW Revolution, that's going to be Sunday, March 9th, live on pay-per-view down in Southern California in LA at the Crypto.com Arena. Adam, this has truly been awesome. Just talk to you. I could talk all day with you about wrestling and your career and stuff. I know you're busy. You got to get ready for Dynamite tomorrow, but thank you so much for everything.
No, man, it was a pleasure talking to you again. Seriously, this was a blast. Thank you.
Awesome. We'll see you next 2 weeks, Saturday. Like I said, March 1st at the Oakland Arena, Ticketmaster.com. Thank you and have a great day.